This is the Alabama Orthopedic Clinic D1 Training High School Football Preview Show.
Weekend of high school football season here on UTV 44. Ready for another matchup tonight. We'll stay in 6A Region 1 as we head down to St. Paul's for a matchup. St. Paul Saints, we saw them last week against Spanish Fort. Tonight they'll take on the undefeated Saraland Spartans. I do want to say we record this show on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock, and so Hurricane Michael made landfall about 5 hours ago. So we've seen what happened in Panama City, but right now we don't know the total destruction and what all has happened in the southeast. So I don't want us to sound insensitive, but we're doing this, while the storm is still actively going on, and those of us who live down here, we know what our neighbors to the east are dealing with right now, and we all got some dear friends over there that are
in fact, on 95 KSA today, Shelby and I just concluded an entire show dealing with it, but it is obviously a storm in progress, and at this point there's a lot of things that we don't know that we will know at game time. Yeah,
so just wanted to make you aware of that. Last week we saw St. Paul's go up against Spanish Fort. Spanish Fort, one of those teams continuing to get better, and boy, that was a big win for them at the Hill, shutting out St. Paul's, and really, I thought that was their biggest win they've had this season.
Yeah, I agree with you, and welcome back to 6A for St. Paul's, and this is kind of their argument was proven by the play of Spanish Fort, but it was one of those games that actually was a pretty even fight. But Spanish Fort able to muster a few more offensive plays, and that was really the difference in the game. But I thought St. Paul showed that they've got a lot to offer, even in 6A, no matter who they play.
Yeah, and they're going to be tested tonight. We'll talk more about that matchup with Saraland. And Dr. Clayton Lane back here with us again from Alabama Orthopedic Clinic as we talk injuries each week. Hammies. The hamstring, like you see it. Is that an injury though? Maybe we don't see as much as we used to with the long-term ramifications because athletes are better training themselves today, or is that?
I think so. They're still the most common injury in sport. Some sports, up to a third of the injuries that occur are hamstring
So I really
injuries.
had no idea what I was saying.
Well, it may just be the sport that you're watching because it's more common in the rapid acceleration sports. So in football, that would be your receivers, your defensive backs, and your running backs. But it also happens in kicking, and then even more commonly in ballistic sports, which is like your weightlifting, your dancing, which you may or may not watch.
Would you guess? If there's one of the three of us on here that looks like he would be a guy great at dancing, could star in a dancing show, it's not Dan and I, I'll just say.
Well, it's not this guy either. But water skiing, things like that. And so that's maybe why you thinking that there's less.
Yeah, so, and you see it happen, and sometimes it's real bad. Sometimes maybe you see a player who's out in football, he's out a week, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, but boy, then it can be really severe and be season ending no matter when it happens in a season, it seems like.
That's right. I mean, most of them we can treat conservatively, and it's if it's a muscle tear, it'll heal pretty well. But there are some tricks to it, even the non-operative management. Basically, we'll start off with the rest, ice, and compression like we do with every orthopedic injury. But really, you want to get them moving in about a week and stretching and actually even strengthening within a week, which you may not want to do. But that'll prevent abnormal scar formation in those hamstrings. And so usually with that protocol, we can get you back to play in 4 weeks. But as you said, it can be more severe. If you tear the tendons off of the bone of the pelvis, then it's surgical. And after I surgically fix them, it's more like 3 months or a season, like you said.
Yeah, but as athletes get bigger, more muscular, it's like you sometimes lose that flexibility, which I know is a big part of why those injuries seem to happen. It's just you're not able to properly stretch, so then you end up with an injury like this, right?
Absolutely. So the risk factors. Risk factors for hamstring injury would be core weakness, which may not be totally intuitive, but that makes your pelvis tilt in abnormal ways, and that makes for an injury. Muscle imbalance, so imbalance between the quadriceps and the hamstring, and then also lack of hip mobility, which you were alluding to. And so all of those are preventable, and so in our D1 sports performance programs, they're going to pick up on that right away. And not only that, all of their functional exercises they do help eliminate those deficits. So you can markedly reduce your incidence of hamstring tears.
That's what we need to do. And so, like every injury we talk about, it seems like that's the key. There are things you can do to get.
Well, when we see athletes doing those exercises as we come here every week too.
Yep, it's a big part of it.
That's where it happens.
All right, keep us healthy.
Thanks for having me.
Keeping us healthy, and we won't. I promise we will not tear a hamstring dancing, either together or somewhere else.
Or doing anything.
That is not going to happen. All right, we're going to take a break. Get ready for our 6A matchup tonight. Spanish Fort was a winner last week over St. Paul's. Tonight we got St. Paul's back here to take on Saraland. The Spartans are undefeated, and we're going to talk with Jeff Kelly coming up right after this. TV 44 high school football this Friday night. We are at St. Paul's, our first matchup. First time we're seeing St. Paul's play at home tonight, and our first time seeing the Saraland Spartans unbeaten on the year, 7-0 region matchup, 6A Region 1. Of course, we've done a few games in that region so far this year, and now we're going to see another one here tonight. We've got head coach Jeff Kelly with us. Doug Sullivan, linebacker. We'll talk with him in a second. And every week's a tough week or whatever, but like your schedule's, it's kind of compressed the last three weeks. You've got tough draws in your last three games to close out the season, right?
We do, and we try not to look ahead at those kind of things, but it is what it is. We try to take them one week at a time, and I think that's one thing our kids have really done a good job of this year is, staying focused on what we got to do week in and week out. And we got a big challenge this week with St. Paul's, and that's all our focus has been on, and we'll worry about whatever's down the road after that. But it should be a good one tonight.
I had a great visit at Saraland High School the other day, and it really is. I was telling someone in the office that if the world was as nice as Saraland High School, it'd be a nicer place to live. Had a great visit with your coach, but one thing I really took away was that you really like the attitude of this team. That it's not just the individuals, but the fact that they seem to have a mission and their work's not done. Is that fair?
That is fair. Every team, and this is my 15th year, every team has a different personality. Sure. And they have a different way that they go about their business. And I think this team has reflected the leadership of our senior class. Our senior class, they shared and spoke before the season with their teammates about the things that was important to them. And football is important to our guys, and what they do daily is important. And, when you got guys like that where it matters, and it's really important to them, it's a lot of fun to coach. I mean, it makes you, look forward to going out there every day, every week, putting a plan together and getting it ready. And our guys, they bust their tail, Monday through Thursday, and they go out and lay it on the line on Friday. And this team has really done a good job of staying focused and doing those things. And when you do that, I mean, what more can you ask for as a coach?
Offensively, you've been around a lot of teams that have put up big numbers. We've seen that, but boy, I know defensively, and it's, this young man, a big part of it right here. I mean, that defense you have, one of the top defenses in the state. I mean, boy, you got to be just so proud of what they're doing so far.
I think scoring in 6A, points per game, I think our guys are at the top right now for what that's worth, and not very much, but they've really done a good job. And we've turned the ball over on offense at times this year, and really put them in some bad spots, but they've did a good job, bowing their neck every single time that they've been in that situation, and finding a way to get off the field, finding a way to get the ball back. A lot of that's credit to guys like Doug and those other guys on defense that just, know what it takes, and they go out there and get it done. But that's really, our offense has gotten a lot of pub. They've gotten a lot of talk, a lot of people talking about our run game and our O-line, and they've done a good job, but I really think our defense has been the story behind our season so far.
Can you ask Doug a question before you ear holes me here? Doug Sullivan is a middle linebacker, and you were one thing that we just talked about before we went on was you said, I think it's important to be physical. You've got to be physical.
Yes, sir.
That's part of the game that you enjoy the most?
Oh, most definitely. Coaches always preach most physical teams always going to be the one that wins. And, we feel like that's been our advantage for us, not just this year, but years past. Being the culture at Saraland has been able to be the most physical team, be the team that plays with most intensity, most energy.
As one of the senior leaders on this team, I mean, how do you see this team compared to played a lot last year as well as a junior, but you're 7-0, leading the state in scoring defense. I mean, how are you looking at your team right now as you get ready for the matchup with St. Paul's?
Oh, this year we just got a different mindset this year. Coming out every practice and every Friday, we understand that in order for us to dominate on Fridays, we've got to dominate each Monday practice, each Tuesday practice, and then so on and so forth. So just having that mentality that we just don't want to win because winning is not good enough.
You know, it's one thing for a
Who
coach.
wouldn't want to coach him?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to coach him?
Let me tell you. Hey, Fridays, our kids they have a thing where they walk the field at 5 o'clock. You know, and they go out there. That's just a tradition. And the first game, you know, Doug, and always out there at the middle of the field, I've always given him a few words and that kind of stuff. Well, Doug took it game 1. And I sat there and listened to him, and by the time he got done talking to the team, I was ready to go play. And so I'm going to just tell you, Doug has handled that every game this year. So he, you know, guys like Doug, and we've got some other really outstanding guys, and that's what it's all about. That's what's made this year, you know, win, lose, or draw, you know, one of the most rewarding as a coach.
And you can try to create that culture as a coach, as an assistant coaches, but it also can ring hollow if you don't have the guys who have the sincerity that the other players realize that leadership is real.
You know, it can come from coaches, and the saying out there, whatever, good teams, it'll come from the coaches, but the great ones, it'll come from the players. And in order to do that, in order for somebody to really listen and follow, they got to live it. They got to live it day in and day out. And we got guys like Doug and some of his teammates right there that they've lived it in the weight room. And so when a guy like him stands up and says, hey, guys, what we're doing, what we're practicing like isn't good enough, you know, the other guys, they respect it because they see him bringing it every day, and that affects your football team.
When you watch St. Paul's on film, get ready for this game, what do you see from the Saints?
I see that, you know, they got some good players, good running backs. They can make plays, but I feel if we limit those guys, that gives us our best chance to win the ball game.
I can't wait to watch him play again.
You know, how about we just advance it 10 years? Doug Sullivan for governor. I mean, he's not going to be
from the great state of Saraland. Welcome him to the stage. He won't shy away from debate either. Like I would just think he'd be a guy in a debate. All right, we're going to take a time out. When we come back, we'll hear about the St. Paul's side of things. Doug, great to see you again. Coach, we'll see you in the last segment as well. We'll come back and get ready for our matchup, Saraland and St. Paul's. We're going to hear all about the Saints with head coach Steve Mask coming up right after this. High school football here on UTV 44. Our matchup tonight, 6A Region 1 matchup, Saraland going down to Old Shell Road to take on the St. Paul Saints. Our game here tonight, Steve Mask, head coach of the Saints, with us here, and Jay Green, quarterback of the Saints. And Coach, we were Dan and I talked about the game last week, had you here on UTV 44, and kind of that, you know, defense played well a lot of the game, and then, but you said it, you know, I think you said it to Tara at halftime, got to capitalize more when we get the ball moving it downfield with some momentum.
Well, it's been an issue all year, Jim, to be quite honest with you. We've moved the chains, and then we get to that part of the field, you know, in the 35 going in, we've struggled for whatever reason, whether it be a penalty or not execution or maybe not making the right play call or whatever for that matter. And we got inside, I think, the 40 probably 5 or 6 times last Friday night and did not get anything out of it. Tried a long field goal. It was a long shot, but we have got to get the ball in the end zone when we get down there. We're having, it's been that way since August, but we're working on it, and hopefully it's going to get better.
You know, you look at this Saraland team tonight, you know, we're excited to see, we might be more excited to see them than maybe you are, because we're excited. We haven't seen them 7-0, playing great on both sides of the football. I mean, look like they're the full package.
Well, I was just telling, you know, Jeff earlier, he got a lot of toys to play with. You know,
coaches like toys, don't they?
Coaches like toys. He's got a lot of toys to play with. He's got, you know, 2 or 3 really good, outstanding receivers, and obviously he's got 2 really, really good backs and a third back that he could throw in there, and then the quarterback does a good job for him. So he has a lot of weapons that make you play balanced defense, and, you know, try to do that every week, but sure enough against him, you got to be able to do it. And then defensively, they run the ball very well, and they're very talented.
So I meet this guy a couple of years ago, well, more than a couple of years ago, with his father at a South Alabama game, I believe. Yes, sir. And we happen to be guests in the same suite, and I'm looking at this kid trying to gauge him, like, is he a sophomore or a junior? I think you were in 8th grade at the time. Yes, so now you got a guy that he was like fully grown back then.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's the last time you'll be in the same suite with Dan. Like you'll have better suites probably
exactly.
Going
we were slumming that time. But anyway, it was great to meet you at that time, and I've kept an eye on you since. And one thing that is undeniable about Jay is he's a leader. I mean, he is a tough guy, and he does not let the guys around him down.
Well, the thing that Jay's done, he's been hurt. I mean, he got hurt in the 3rd or 2nd play of the Baldwin County game week 3, which seems like it was 5 years ago, but he has not been able to do some things he's been capable of doing because he's just been injured. Now, he's been hurt. They can play hurt, but he's been injured. And so we limited him what he could do. For the first time in a while, just told him he's got all 4 tires aired up and maybe be able to move around a little bit better.
Yeah, we talked about it in the game last week. Mobility way better than we saw against Blunt because that was the following week after the injury. But as a leader, how has this week been as you get ready for the game and trying to make sure you can, not focus on last week and look to the game here against Saraland? What's the week been like for you?
It's been really good. I think the energy on both sides of the ball has really, really been great for us. Obviously, we need a big-time bounce back. And I think everybody on offense is ready to step it up. And we took it personally last week that we didn't score a point. And I think we're ready to really show people that's not what we're about.
Well, that's got to be good to hear for you. And it's amazing how these young student athletes really are resilient.
They are, and I didn't touch on the question that Jim asked about the leadership part of it. Jay's been outstanding from the minute the first day of all season. He's been the guy that sort of ratted everybody around him, and that's a trait that every coach would love to have 100 of them on his team, and we have a lot of just like that. But the leadership part that Jay brought to the table is really, really good and very important to us.
You were telling us about that on the field before the Blunt game, just saying how as soon as you came in, got all the guys around you, and everybody kind of gravitated in, and it was a real buy-in. Is that leading is not easy. I mean, it's not an easy skill to have, but obviously something you've studied and you really enjoy the leadership part of the game as well?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I can't think of anything I love more than stepping out on the field with my brothers every Friday night and just playing with them. And, and it's just not me that's leading. Obviously, we've got a great senior class, 2 senior linemen that have really stepped up for us. And it's just so much fun and great to just thankful to the Lord that I've been put in this position that we're in.
We were just asking Doug Sullivan, the linebacker from Saraland, what he sees in you on offensively. What do you see in that talented defense that you're going to be going up against tonight?
Obviously they've got a great secondary with, a SEC commit. I think his name's Cordell. He's a great player. They've got great linebackers. They move around a lot, fly to the ball, and a really fast defensive line. So we're going to have to really play fast to keep up with them, I think.
Well, we're looking forward to the match, and the atmosphere will be good. Y'all love playing. Y'all love playing at home. Ready to get back home.
We're ready to get back home, and I think it'll be an outstanding crowd. And we knew when we got into this arena. I keep talking about it, but the newness of what we're playing, we're learning to play at this environment, those kind of things. So we're getting there.
Yeah, and it's it's where you end up. It's where you finish at the end of the year, and you have a lot of experience doing that as well. So continuing to get better and get through it. But a big matchup tonight. Saraland going up against St. Paul's. We're excited to have it. We haven't been to St. Paul's yet this year. We haven't seen Saraland, so we'll cross those things off the list here tonight as kickoffs.
Two really good teams. Yep. And it's going to be a beautiful night.
Yeah, we can't wait. All right, we'll take another time out. Good to meet you, Jay. Stay here. And, Coach, we'll talk to you in the last segment as well. Jeff Kelly just can't wait to answer questions with you and Dan. That all comes up right after this. It's like Hard Knocks here, right in the commercial breaks. It's like Hard Knocks. We love it. We would love to do a web-only show, and just
but
because
it's not,
just because they talking about players, strategy, coaches.
I think I told you this last week, Jeff. You know what I want to do? When I finally do quit, I want to be somebody come up and ask me a question. I know it's my last game. I'm gonna say, you know what? We ain't worth a damn. And everybody thinks that they're well coached has lost their damn mind. That's what I want to do.
See? And you know what? I really hope your last game is on UTV 44.
Yeah, that's what I'm because everybody, they're so well coached. We play people that are donkeys.
Okay, that's not the case this week.
No, I'm not.
That is not the case.
Jeff knows what I'm talking about.
This is not the case this week.
You thought it was just going to be Hard Knocks during the break.
Yeah,
it just became Hard Knocks.
I want to do it, though, on my way out the door.
Yeah, well, if you keep doing that, that door maybe...
Well, the way things are going right now, it won't be long.
Hey, we were talking about something. Dan was talking about going up to Saraland. Of course, Saraland became their own city school system and has had great success, not just in football, in all facets of that. But Dan was talking about how just great an atmosphere it is up there on campus. Talk about, as a coach, being somewhere where, like, you're happy to be and you feel like you got everybody there with you pulling in the same direction. What that means to a coach.
I think it's why I went there 8 years ago. I grew up in the community and, grew up playing in the parks and you know, that's to get an opportunity to come back, and I've been able over the years, because we're a new system and that kind of stuff, been able to have a hand in who's with me and those kind of things. And, so it is so important, and to be a place where it's important, you know, and I think all of us as coaches, I think that's something that we'd love to be at. And sometimes that's a bad thing, but you know, to be somewhere where it matters and that kind of stuff, it makes it a little more worthwhile.
Yeah, and I think the longer you're in it, I know you.
This is the only school that I've coached at, and it was the only one-horse town in town. I'm talking about, you know, St. Paul. And I've coached at 5 other high schools, and they were all shared systems. Now, if you did, like when Jeff, well, they succeeded. If they did for Saraland, they had to do for Murphy and whatever. I think that's a huge advantage.
Well, I think one of the coolest things is, you know, we have a game, you know, tonight at the game tonight, we'll have all of our board members, our superintendent. It's just, you know, everybody's invested and everybody's there, and really proud of those kids.
We love it.
I just can't wait to go 7A.
Yeah. All right, here we go. I'm going to give before Steve Mask gets any more trouble. All right, so
we're going to be here a while.
There was a story about where manual transmission cars sell best in the United States. Number 1, Texas, El Paso, Texas. Number 2, Dothan, Alabama. Driving a stick, Dan Brennan.
I can do that, Brennan. Yeah.
Grew up driving a stick.
Yeah. You've driven trucks, sticks, the whole. I'm thinking the whole thing,
absolutely,
right?
Brennan.
Yeah. You'd lose a little citronelle credibility if you said you couldn't drive a stick.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying, I would think that. All right, big on that. Okay, there's a big axe throwing competition in Los Angeles where the expert says axe throwing gives people a good reason to put down their phones. Axe throwing, Dan Brennan.
Brennan.
Definitely.
Done it a few times.
I think I'd like to.
We surrender.
I'd like to do that as well. Let's see. Okay, there was a headline said, before you accept a check for $30,000 from a woman for a payment for your truck, make sure she was never on the Judge Judy show and swindled a yoga studio. Judge Judy, Dan Brennan.
I'm a little busy that time of day. Brennan out.
Steve out.
Brent out.
I like it. My wife loves Judge Judy. All right, Huffington Post said 12 delicious ways to cook with Spam.
Oh.
Spam, Dan Brennan.
It's big in Hawaii. We're not in Hawaii.
Dan out.
I grew up on it.
Really? Still in? Still would eat the Spam.
Wow.
All right, I would be out on the Spam. All right, head coach Steve Kelly and Steve Mask. This was great. Jeff Kelly, Steve Mask, Dan Cox, Jim Brennan right here. Kickoff comes up next. Saraland and St. Paul's on UTV 44.